Pautz.
Good morning.
Yes. And Pautz is what nationality?
German. At least that's what they say.
And was your mother of German descent?
Oh, no. She was Irish.
Irish. What was her name?
O'Hanlon.
O'Hanlon. Oh, right. What was her first name?
Phyllis.
Phyllis O'Hanlon. Oh. And where did your mother and father meet?
Well, they met at I think a USO club in somewhere around New York.
My. So you're from a military family.
Yes.
And what branch of the service is
My
that?
father was he was in the Army Air Corps, and then it became the Air Force. So.
Did he serve during one of the wars?
World War II.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right. So you were born before or after?
After. I'm at the initial, wave of the baby boomers.
So in the 40s,
48.
late 40s, 48. Oh my, just a babe in arms, Laura. And where did your birth take place?
Oh, I was born on a military base. Well, yeah, base in Nebraska. It was Omaha, but it was Offutt Air Force Base, which was also, I think it had been Fort Crook, which was an old Indian fort, and then it became an Army and then Air Force Base.
Was it a cold winter day when you arrived?
I don't even know. I think my father went to the officers' club and was at the buffet.
Passing out cigarettes.
Well, maybe, or just
cigars.
eating.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Were you the first then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how many siblings followed?
I have two.
Two. And they're currently
alive
and living in the United States.
Yeah, my sister lives in Connecticut and my brother in South Carolina.
Well, surely your father didn't stay in Nebraska. Did he
no.
take the family elsewhere?
Let me think. Yeah, I think when I was a few months old, we went to Florida, and then I know when I was 2, we were in France, and then I know we were in Alabama, and we were there during the strike of the buses. I remember that because we had I hate to use maid, because I remember us taking her back and forth to her home because she wouldn't get on the bus. We lived in Japan. Probably I was in middle school, maybe. Mm-hmm. That was after the war, obviously. And then we went to Iowa, and my father was in ROTC at a co-college there. And then we went to Myrtle Beach. And
did you settle in Myrtle Beach?
We didn't settle anywhere.
Oh, my. Oh.
So we stayed there for 4 years, and he went to Greenland. I guess he had stepped on some toes in the Air Force because he was sent to Greenland. Mm-hmm. And then my mother and my brothers and sisters stayed in Myrtle Beach so I could finish high school there.
Well, so you had varied educational experiences, didn't you, through the years?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So how wonderful to have that solid few years in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
And when you did you have Adrian Dominican Sisters in
school? I never went to a Catholic school. I wasn't Catholic.
Oh, a specific denomination?
I would say Episcopalian.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when you're in the military, you go to the chapel. Mm-hmm. And whatever the chapel is, it's kind of non-denominational Protestant. Mm-hmm. At one place, we happened to have an Episcopalian minister who was the chaplain, so we went to Episcopalian services.
Were you baptized?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that didn't end your journey or your search for, were you searching for the true religion, or were you searching for the truth?
At the time, which is prior to Vatican II, mm-hmm. I thought I still believe it, that the Roman Catholic Church was the true religion. So I would send off for information about the Catholic Church, and then eventually, once my father went to Greenland, when we moved off base, then I started going to visit the local priest, which there wasn't RCIA at that time. And then I took instructions, and then I joined the church.
The Bible was very important to you, was it not, early on?
No, it became important to me after I became Catholic, as far as I can remember.
Did you read it daily, or did you go to classes for?
No, I can't even remember. But after I became Catholic, we moved again to North Carolina, and then I decided to go to a school in Vermont called Goddard College, and it was a non-denominational school. So I connected up with a local Catholic church, which was kind of small, and I would go to Mass there.
Well, you chose a wonderful state to have your education.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Oh, that was a wonderful school.
Yeah. And I know through the years of knowing you personally as an Adrian Dominican that your profession has been that of nursing. When did that spark in your life, or begin?
Well, I knew somehow I knew I was going to have to support myself, and in the, I guess it was the 60s, there was, you would, I guess you'd get married or you'd become a teacher or, a nurse. And,
as far as women's options.
Yes, as far as women. And so I felt drawn toward nursing, I'll just put it that way. And so I attended the University of South Carolina, and I just felt drawn toward nursing, and I felt that I would always be employed, which actually up until the point that I wasn't able to tolerate the hours and the physical demands on me is the truth. I mean, I never had problems getting a job in nursing, and so.
Well, that's wonderful. Somewhere along the line, you must have met the Adrian Dominicans.
Well, yes, I did. There were a lot of Adrian Dominicans in South Carolina, and probably one of the first I encountered was Susie Cressy, and she invited me to look at the community. And around the same time, I met Jerry Magel, Shirley Levesque. I met Marianne Darty, and there was also the southern province of Dominican men were in Columbia, South Carolina, which is where I was. So
did they have their novitiate there?
Yeah, John Egan, Brian Pierce was there. He's not like he is now, but he was like a little kid.
So would you go there for?
Yeah, they had
liturgy and.
Yeah, they had their evening prayer and Mass. It was kind of combined. Then they had night prayer, and I was very pious. So I would go. I'd work nights, and I'd go there to prayer at night, and then I would go in from there. I'd go to 11 to 7. I worked 11 to 7. Or I was working 3 to 11, I'd go in. I don't know, but I remember going to the night prayer.
Of your stable.
Yeah.
Stable.
So I got to know them also, and they were a great group of people. But
so you must have been older then when you decided, or you felt you wanted to become an Adrian.
Yeah, I was in my 30s, and I just kind of. I didn't know the process. I remember Marlene Leader was the vocations person. So it was like I just kind of felt that I was called to do that. I was, at that time, too, involved in the charismatic movement. And
That was an offshoot of the Pentecostal, wasn't it?
Well, Catholic charismatic
Catholic
too,
charismatic.
and non-Catholic too, but mostly Catholic. And so I prayed about it. I felt that God was leading me in that direction, and I went to what was I don't know what Exploring Religious Life. I think that's what it was called here.
Say it again.
Exploring Religious
yes.
Life. So I went to it. I met with Marlene. I told her I was interested in joining, and I was in the next year.
Oh my!
They didn't do it the way they do now,
Was
which I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
was after Vatican II.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was in '83,
All right.
and I took the test and all that stuff. I don't know if that says anything about the validity of the psychological testing, but I entered. I'm pretty sure I entered the next fall.
Oh my!
And we didn't have, there was nothing like these live-in things with people or, testing your vocation and nothing like now.
Did you live at Weber Center?
Oh, no, I lived with the people who ran Weber Center, like Mary Sue Kennedy, Jackie Phillips.
We're over at the Regina building?
Yeah, the old Regina. I mean,
before it was renovated.
Yeah, and there were about 6 of us.
Didn't they have wings called A and
Yeah,
B?
I was in
C?
2B South. And down the hall then was Barb Willette and a number of sisters. I remember Marie George. I think she's dead now, but she was down there. And,
yes, Brennan, Marie George Brennan.
yeah, so anyway.
And Marie Matthew Divine. You remember her?
No, I probably, yeah, so, and...
So that was about a year then that you stayed with the
Yeah,
sisters
the first
in
year, I think we were candidates. And we lived on campus, and we did different things. And since I was still a nurse and I had my license, I worked for the health department in home health nursing.
For Lenawee County?
Yeah.
Oh my heavens!
Yeah, and I brought in a salary and I turned it into to the director.
Who was that? Jude Van Belen?
I don't know. I can't remember, but I know she was in there somewhere.
So there were about 4 or 5 of you in your group.
I believe there were 5. Let's see if I can remember this. Jane Roby, she was invited to leave the first year. Myself, Barb Willette, Teresa Piggott, Therese Martin's niece.
Yes.
And I was going to go. I think there was one more.
But now you're it.
Oh yeah, Diane Bollingo.
Oh
And
yes.
she made first vows, but then she, for whatever health reasons, let's say, didn't continue. Barb Willette made first vows, but she left. She still, comes in. Anyway, I'm the only one. Now, I don't know what that means.
Well, did you celebrate your Silver Jubilee?
Yeah.
And it was you.
Just me and myself and I, so there were 3 of us there.
And that was the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, dear. And the rest is history. So you never had a name as a crowd?
Oh, no.
Never had a religious name?
No.
I bet you wanted one, though.
Well, we didn't have that history to want
true.
one.
That's
true. And I don't think it was encouraged to talk about that history with us. See, now that I look back on it, 83 was not so far from remembering, which I think was in, 77?
Yes.
But I felt a little bit cut off from that history. Now I don't.
No.
I realized how close it was. But,
That's the way it was.
Yeah.
So you never received a card saying you are assigned
no.
to...
The assignment I got was to find a job, ministry. But I'll find a job. If I hadn't been able to find one, then there probably would have been questions about my vocation. vacation. Yeah.
So where did you first go then after you
Well, I went to
received your vows?
Parkside Lutheran Hospital, which was in Park Ridge, Illinois. And one of our sisters, and I think it was Florence Gibbons, worked there. She was in the the executive branch, let's say. But she was a connection. I wouldn't say she got me the job because it was working 11 to 7 shift.
Oh,
I applied there, and after a while, I suddenly realized I would not get a job there unless I had to, agreed to working the 11 to 7 shift. So I did, and I lived with Maureen Barzantni and Renee Ritchie, in Maywood. But yeah, we had to find our own jobs, and with the way it was, everybody had different abilities.
Yes, skills.
And so.
Do you remember where you were when you made final profession?
Yeah, I was in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, come on. Did you ever get to Haiti while you were there?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. We worked with Haitian sugarcane cutters.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And so you were like a clinic, is that correct?
Well, we did a number of things, and I did some work with medicines and worked with some of the Dominicans.
Yes.
I mean, Dominicans.
Yes, the native Dominicans.
Yeah, the natives. Who, worked out in the fields, and we.
I would imagine you helped with the nutritional
I
advice
did.
and.
Yeah, but also got medicines and tried to make sure they took them, which is another whole different thing. It was. I'm really glad I had that experience.
Oh my. Did you ever get to Texas or
Oh
California?
yeah, I lived in El Paso. That was after the Dominican Republic. Sharon McGuire told me about a position open in the City County Health Department in the TB clinic. And I had worked with people who had tuberculosis in the Dominican Republic. So I went there.
You went to?
Yeah, well, I went for an interview.
To El Paso.
Yeah, and
isn't that where Donna Custich and Eleanor Stick were?
Yeah, I lived with them. And Pat Erickson, she was out in the country, but she would come in on the weekends for community.
Yes.
And so that was a very interesting experience too, because in El Paso, it's very difficult to do much if you don't speak Spanish, if you want to work with Mexican people. And I think it's almost very difficult to live there without having some Spanish. The place where I worked, we spoke Spanish about 80% of the time.
Aye.
And so that's where I really, really learned, used Spanish. Well, in the Dominican Republic also, but.
Yeah, I would imagine. Did you first learn Spanish in the Dominican Republic?
No, I went to a place called Mock in San Antonio.
Oh, yes.
And studied. And then I used it there, and I also used it in Texas.
Texas. What a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
And those must have been the first years for Donna Custich and Eleanor.
It was, yeah. It was her first year, and she was, it was hard for her to make that break, I think, from, being at Siena
Heights.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she made it, and she really had faith in what she was doing.
And our dear sister Maureen Gallagher is carrying on that ministry.
Yeah, it was really.
And especially at the time in our nation right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure she is challenged every day, or with people who are challenged every day. Well, when did you return to the Carolinas?
Well, after I was in El Paso, I got master's degree in social work.
Because?
Well, I felt I was ready for a change, and I thought, well, and one of the things I did a lot of, which you do there, is that you connect people and resources. And that's one of the things social workers do. A lot of social workers also do counseling. I didn't feel drawn to that. So that was.
But as far as being a resource and directing people in the
and when you work in a place like El Paso, people need that. And so anyway, so I applied to Washington University in St. Louis, and I applied for a scholarship, and I got both. And then I got my master's degree, and then.
Well, you were in Dominican land at that time.
Yeah.
You know, the Dominican priests were there, and our sisters, right?
Yeah. Well, that's when I went back. Initially, I had tried to find. I had looked for work in Atlanta because Mary Perniske lived there, so I would be near sisters in the community. But I wasn't able to find anything. And I was concerned about my parents, who were living in Greenville, South Carolina, which is close to Atlanta, about 100 miles. And so I saw an ad in the paper for social workers, home health social worker working for the state of South Carolina.
Wow.
And I had worked for the state before I even entered. So I thought, well, so I applied, and I got the job. And it was it was in a town called Seneca, which is about 35, 40 miles from where my mother and father lived. They did not live together at that time. They were divorced. But at least I could be present to them and, go see them. So.
Are they both deceased?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, they died. And so that was, that started another part of my life.
Yeah,
I like that part.
Somewhere along the line, Marie Breitenbeck was dear to you.
Yeah, well, she was, first of all, the mission group I was part of met in Atlanta a lot. Marie was part of that mission group. And she, so I got to know her a lot. And also like Marianne, well, I knew Marianne Doherty, but Marie Toner, who's an associate, would come to our mission group. And Mary Ray Waller was part of that. And so I got to know Marie. And the one funny thing that happened was I've never been to Europe except when I was a child, but Marie got a offer or applied to go to Lourdes with the Knights of Malta or something, and she asked me to go as her companion.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah. And so I said, sure. I mean, everything was taken care of.
Wow.
And
so you got to Lourdes and any other places along the way?
No, this is strictly spiritual, except, there's, it's commercial, but it's, as soon as you go in the front gates of Lourdes, it's not. So, but I think we might have there was a whole big group of people, and so we're all in one hotel. It wasn't a fancy hotel, but so it was very spiritual. And,
do you remember the night processions?
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
In silence, or singing.
No, I remember the singing.
Yes.
And she was in one of those funny wagons, but there were these volunteers, and their whole thing was to push the people around and be their companions. So I basically made sure that she had those volunteers, and because most of the people did not have persons like myself. I went with her because she just was lucky to.
Yes.
I was lucky to be able to go with her.
Yes.
So once she got her companions in place,
everything was okay.
yes.
So
and I went into those baths,
Did you?
and I had heard that you come out and you're dry, and that's the truth.
You
Totally
come out
dry and warm. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
And miracles do happen.
Yeah.
And the sick, to see the army, the legions, I guess is a better word, of ill people being carried on stretchers as well as
also being given first place. That's what impressed me. Like they were not pushed to the back of the crowds. They were, pushed to the front, and that was great.
And now you're living in Regina. And how long have you been there?
I would say three or 4 years. I recently moved in with Mary Ann Letzkus.
Okay.
So,
but you had some severe accident, did you not?
A couple of them.
Would you mind sharing that with us?
Well, let's see. I think I was living at St. Gerard's in Detroit, and I had a fall and broke my ankle pretty badly, actually. So I wasn't able to stay there, and I had been doing volunteer work there. And so I came in, and then I fell off.
You came into Adrian?
To Adrian, yeah. I fell off the bus we used to shop onto the concrete in front of Weber. So then I broke my neck on that one.
Oh, my.
But fortunately, I wasn't paralyzed. And then I think that's what got me into Regina.
Yes. Yeah.
And then but I felt after I was on the first floor, I felt that I was able to, live with other people. And I asked permission to do that. And so I'm living with Mary Ann and now Mary Bobian.
I know I'm grateful to you. In 2005, you happened to be here on campus, and we all were there to welcome the Iraqi sisters.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yes.
Yes. And how did you ever find that book that saved us? Because it was a pictorial book.
I probably looked it up on the internet.
It had Arabic
Yeah.
and English and a picture of a dress or an automobile or food or whatever. It was such a help in getting a conversation going.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I looked it up on the internet.
And you also found an ideal place for Mediterranean food in Ann Arbor, which was a salvation for these sisters.
Well, once they got their feet wet, they found places too. I'll tell you, Dearborn is just incredible. And
the Mideastern.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and I give them a lot of credit.
Oh my, yes.
Yeah.
Even what they are experiencing today.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yes. Sister Ban, as you remember, sent us a Facebook video of all of her children. They must have been celebrating Easter because they were the kindergarten people were all dressed up, and the music was going, and they were dancing, and it was just delightful. It's amazing what they have done. So thank you for that initial beginning.
You put a lot of effort into that also.
Well, we all did. It was like
we all did.
A village.
Yeah.
Helping them all, yes. And what are your dreams today?
Well, I'm sure that God has a call for each of us here, and because although youth is always relative, I feel that there might be something more that I can do. Now, I would, sometimes I think of, it would be wonderful if I could do what I used to do and maybe go use my Spanish, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that I'll probably be here for the rest of my life. But, to find other
outlets.
Outlets, yeah. I do some volunteer work here, but to continue to find outlets.
That's
So-
great. Well, God bless you, and thank you for the time, Laura. And I wish you had a crowd, but now you're the crowd with everyone.
I'm a crowd in myself.
And you have you cannot be specific. You can be general with everyone. We
Yeah.
are your crowd. God bless you.
Okay, thank you.